I've actually seen huge amounts written about how China has lifted millions out of poverty. There's a lot of information out there, but I think perhaps why this isn't talked about more generally is that we do not have a sort of a press that will go for this, a media that will go for these sorts of stories. There's a political dimension to how the West sees China. I heard a gentleman earlier who was doing one of the film workshops, and he said, I don't take pity shots like Oxfam and the other NGOs do. I'm sorry, Oxfam don't do that. Haven't done it for decades, completely untrue. And Oxfam has led the way in showing positive images of African people, of people who live in poverty and what they are capable of.
I think the record probably shows that autonomy is essential for development, and it's essential at every level. So the more you can enhance the autonomy of the people who are the subject of the development, the better. And that includes at the sovereign level of the states, because that's what's been conspicuously lacking in a great many situations. And whereas East Asia did achieve a higher level of autonomy through their own means and managed to follow their own development policies for their own reasons, for their own interests. And that's a lesson that needs to be shouted from the rooftops across the globe. There are many ways to develop, and huge environmentally damaging white elephant techniques of modernization have been a catastrophe in a number of places. And I have a lot of sympathy for other more decentralized, small is beautiful types of techniques where those are appropriate and where those are what the people want.
Could I just ask that Kim please? I accept what you're saying about implementing strategies that will help in the long term, but I was just thinking, I remember around Christmas and things, Oxfam doing things like buying people a goat and things, and I was thinking, how does things like that fit in with what you were saying about empowerment and the underlying issues? Because it seems like a contradiction.
My question's for Ceri. If you're calling your film Keeping Africa Small, but you only look at Ghana and you only look at them, then if you're writing an essay, you're told to give at least 2 examples. Why is you going to fail the essay? So how is that film representative of Africa if it's just Ghana?
And this is for Kim. Again, Kim, do you think Oxfam is divided between the will or the good heart to help people, which is aid, and again campaigning for big development issues?
I have a question for Ceri, just like a bit more clarification about the way that this film is intended to be used. Because I feel that you made a mistake not calling it Carry On Up the NGO. If you had given it that title, we would have known it was a caricature. Perhaps from the same amount of footage, edit it in a different way, and it would have come across quite differently.
If Britain suddenly had a natural disaster, do we want other governments coming to us saying, we'll give you free trade, you can build neat little brick corn walls, whatever, touristy things. We're used to a certain level of quality of living, we should treat everyone the same.
Sadly, we've all seen it. A child dying every minute. We had it again at Christmas with Oxfam Unwrap's campaign. It's not true that you've moved on. And what Oxfam Unwrap were offering for Christmas, as unfortunately many of these ethical shopping campaigns, was, a bucket of worms, dung, a goat. This is an absolute anathema when you think about people's aspirations to have what we have. The fact that people already have those things, so it's the persistence of that sort of subsistence type way of living and just scraping by. And I think in general the problem is that we think we can't ask much of the British public. In fact, it's not only demeaning of our peers, it's damning of the British public. It's saying we can't ask much, we can't campaign for more. We can't campaign for, global equality, for people in the developing world to have what we have. Why? We don't think much is possible. Secondly, we don't necessarily think that's desirable, which is slightly where I disagree with Barry, because while I agree with you that sovereignty and autonomy is actually probably the sort of prime question when it comes to even thinking about development, and it's denied in many new ways, the relativisation of development, that idea that what you mean by development is not what we mean by development, in fact, can form an apology for poverty. I know people who would say carrying water on your head is a social tradition and women can get round the well. Who offered them the chance to go down the pub? all the time it's this low horizon stuff. And insofar as the film is imbalanced, yes, it's absolutely imbalanced on the side of people in the developing world. And I do think the point about is Ghana, you know, just a country like Ghana, is it fair? No, it's not fair just to use one country. But I would defy people to go anywhere in any part of Africa and find people who want crap. You know, that does not exist, and it's a nonsense. I do not believe that human beings anywhere in the world want back-breaking toil. They want the best. And if we understand that and we don't relativise development and we stick up for the best possible and our peers having it, why would you campaign for so little when you could set your sights on so much? I mean, that's just a dumb idea, in my view.
You're right. I would want to avoid getting into the quagmire of a relative position about it. What I was trying to emphasize is, on the one hand, ultimately, though, if people have freedom, whatever it is that they may decide is development through their own means of constituting themselves and deciding, is really for them to decide. Ultimately, it should be in an ideal sort of situation, right? Rather than the opposite, where it's already prefigured and determined for them, but it actually turns out to be a mode of domination which keeps them poor.
I'll address the question about Oxfam Unwrapped and the goat, specifically the goat. Now, as I said earlier, all of Oxfam's programs and our activities come out of our program experience and the needs and aspirations of the communities that we work with. How Oxfam Unwrapped works is this. Funding officers in programs in the countries identify with the communities that we work with what their needs are. If a community is an agrarian community and they want help with agricultural equipment, whether that be machinery or livestock or support like veterinary support for their herds or any of that, that can be identified and put in the Oxfam Unwrapped catalogue. So if a community has said, our wealth lies in the number of goats we have, this is how we live, this is vital to our well-being, and it's not about scraping by on the poverty line, it's about improving people's livelihoods.